Success or failure? What I'm going to share with you, for some of you, will absolutely flip your current belief. And that is, in order to achieve your dream, your goals, you must be obsessed. You need to be narrow-minded. You need to completely abandon yourself and surrender to your desire. Absolute focus, narrow-mindedness, being obsessed is a key to making it natural. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that and why it's an absolute must, and the difference between failure and success. Having coached people in over 45 countries from around the world, I can tell you exactly why many succeed and many don't succeed in realizing their goal. 99% won't tell you like it is. I'm going to right now. Fear, doubt, and ultimately failure. Many people want to realize their goals. They follow something amazing on YouTube or online and Facebook. They follow the tips and methods and yet still have no success. Based on Neville Goddard's Power of Awareness, Chapter 24, I'm going to lay out exactly why from this chapter, along with references from his other books and also from my own personal experience in coaching people in over 45 countries, why it works and why it doesn't work. So stay tuned. This is going to be very important for you to understand and really get if you're going to be successful manifesting your dreams. Let's start with our opening reading of the book, and then we'll get to the key points. This book would not be complete without some discussion of failure in the attempted use of the law of assumption. It is entirely possible that you either have had or will have a number of failures in this respect, many of them in really important matters. If, having read this book, having a thorough knowledge of the application and working of the law of assumption, you faithfully apply it in an effort to attain some intense desire and fail, what is the reason? If to the question, did you persist enough? You can answer yes, and still the attainment of your desire was not realized. What is the reason for your failure? Okay, so friends, so pay attention here because this is the key point. Neville Goddard now clarifies. The answer to this most important factor in the successful use of the law of assumption, time it takes for your assumption to become a fact, your desire to be fulfilled, is directly proportionate to what? To the naturalness of your feeling of it already being what you want to be, of already having what you desire. Now stay with me because in my opening, I said you need to be narrow-minded. You need to be obsessed. You need to completely abandon yourself and surrender to that desired outcome. And you need to focus. I'm going to explain that in just a moment. But first, let's follow through on what Neville adds as to why it feeling natural as if it's already yours is so imperative. The fact that it does not feel natural to you to be what you imagine yourself to be is the secret of your failure. Let's read that one more time. The fact that it does not feel natural. The fact that it does not feel natural to you to be what you imagine yourself to be is the secret of your failure. Regardless of your desire, regardless of how faithfully and intelligently you follow the law, if you do not feel natural about what you want to be, You will not be it if it does not feel natural to you to get a better job. You will not get a better job. The whole principle is vividly expressed by the Bible phrase, you die in your sins. You do not transcend from your present level to the state desired. Let's take a moment and really examine that. So you need to transcend from your present level. What he's referring to is your state of consciousness. Your state of consciousness has been programmed and trained for decades. It's actually at a cellular level, subconsciously, you are programmed. You are hardwired that you can't have the job, for example, that you'd like to have. You're not going to have that higher income. You're not going to have that SP or partner, man or woman, that you seek to be with. You're not going to make that major move that you'd like to make in your life. You're not going to have it, be it, or do it because you are wired for failure. The bottom line is, until you transcend or rise above beyond your present level, that is the state of consciousness that you have right now, to that desired state as already having it, and it actually becoming natural on a subconscious cellular level, you cannot expect to have it. Notice the Neville has already referred to the idea that you need to feel it, that feeling it natural is a key proponent, an absolute necessity to manifest. It has to feel natural on a subconscious level. Things actually have to be totally transformed on a subconscious level through feeling and then feeling it natural. Notice what Neville says in his famous book, Feeling is a Secret. The mechanism of creation is hidden in the very depth of the subconscious. The creative process begins with an idea, and its cycle runs its course as a feeling. Ideas are impressed on the subconscious through the medium of feeling. No idea can be impressed on the subconscious until it is felt. Something that psychologists and scientists agree on is this. Your subconscious mind, your ego, is programmed to keep you safe, to keep you what's called homeostasis. In other words, your deeper self is programmed and is resistant to change. In fact, I would say that it hates change. It wants to keep you the same, and so it resists any changes that you consciously want to bring about. And remember, the conscious is only responsible for about 5% of what you actually do unconsciously or subconsciously in your actual life. 95% of what we do is controlled by our subconscious. So what's the solution? How can we reprogram or rearrange our subconscious? Stay with me. I'm going to explain. First, let's continue with Neville's words that will deepen our understanding. Neville asks, how can this feeling of naturalness be achieved? The secret lies in one word, imagination, which I'm going to expand on shortly. Neville says, for example, this is a very simple illustration. Assume that you are securely chained to a large, heavy iron bench. You couldn't possibly run. In fact, you could not even walk. Now, it's at this point where Neville ties back in the importance of using our imagination. Follow along when he says, in these circumstances, it would not be natural for you to run. You could not even feel that it was natural for you to run. But you could easily imagine yourself running. In that instant, while your consciousness is filled with your imaginal running, you have forgotten that you are bound. In imagination, your running was completely natural. The essential feeling of naturalness can be achieved how? by persistently filling your consciousness with the imagination, imagining yourself being what you want to be, having what you desire. Notice, by persistently filling your consciousness, therefore affecting your subconscious through the repeated use of your imagination, and it has to be done again in that alpha brainwave meditation that I've covered so many times, even recently in my videos. So let's highlight that, because we're not going to highlight the meditation at this moment. I'll let you go look at my other videos for that, and I'll leave the links for that. What I want to highlight is that you need to persistently be filling your consciousness and thereby affecting your subconscious, right, through your imagination. And the way we do that is by our narrowness of focus, actually being obsessed with it. Let me explain. Neville spoke about this in chapter 6 of The Power of Awareness, Attention. He said the following: attention is forceful in proportion to the narrowness of its focus. That is, when it is obsessed with a single idea or sensation. You study the attention and increase its power by confining it. The desire which realizes itself is always a desire upon which attention is exclusively concentrated. Therefore, when you know what you want, you must deliberately focus your attention on the feeling of your wish fulfilled until that feeling fills the mind, and notice, crowds out all other ideas out of consciousness. Concentrated observation of one thing, that is your goal, and believing it's already yours, imagining it as already yours, shuts out all other things and causes them to disappear. So we must be possessed by it. We must abandon ourselves to it. We must surrender to it. The ideas which impel, Neville says, the ideas which impel you to action are those which dominate the consciousness, those which possess the attention. Again, we must be completely, narrow-mindedly, obsessed and focused on imagining it as ours already until it begins to feel natural, and that's when it will be manifested in our world. I have much more for you, so please stay with me. Let's continue in the reading first. Neville continues, progress can spring only from your imagination, from your desire to transcend your present level. You could say your present level of consciousness on that subconscious level that hasn't been retrained yet. What you truly and literally must feel is that with your imagination, all things are possible. You must realize that changes are not caused by caprice, caprice meaning by a whim or just a brief mood, but by a change of consciousness. You may fail to achieve or sustain the particular state of consciousness necessary to produce the effect you desire. Read that again. You may fail to achieve or sustain the particular state of consciousness necessary to produce the effect you desire. So we may fall short in achieving or sustaining the particular state of consciousness necessary because we give up too easy. We don't train ourselves. Anybody who plays guitar or any instrument will tell you, or who has achieved anything that requires study and practice, you have to practice it. Even on days you don't want to. Even if your fingers are calloused and sore, the guitar player will continue to practice the chords until he gets it, until it becomes what? Until it becomes natural. So failure is not in the law, as Neville is going to point out shortly. The failure is in us and our lack of sustaining that feeling and really getting into our imagination and imagining it as ours sufficiently. That may take weeks. It takes persistence. Yes, it even takes being obsessed and narrowly focused on practicing it until we begin to see and feel the changes in our world. We feel the shift, we see the results, and then our goal is accomplished. Neville here clarifies that you really need to get this point, that again, 99% are not emphasizing enough for you to fully grasp. And that is, as Neville states here, but once you know that consciousness is the only reality, and it is the sole creator of your particular world, and have burnt this truth into your whole being, then you know that success or failure is entirely in your own hands. Let me repeat that. Once you have this truth burnt into your heart, you know that success or failure is in your own hands, dear listener or reader of this YouTube presentation. It is in your hands to have success or failure. Personal responsibility is a must. Just like the guitar and the guitar player, the guitar will not play itself. You have to be disciplined to practice it. As Neville continues here, whether or not you are disciplined enough to sustain the required state of consciousness in specific instances has no bearing on the truth of the law itself, that an assumption persisted in will harden into fact. And now I hope you have a better appreciation for what it means by persisted in. Okay, this is what I'm talking about when I refer to what Neville says about your focused attention, all right? About being obsessed, about being absorbed. In The Power of Awareness, chapter 13, Neville says, when absorption reaches such a degree that it results in a feeling of complete acceptance, that's when everything opens up and unfolds for you. And it's through the practices that I clearly delineate on my site of how to practice the meditation that brings you into affecting yourself on a subconscious cellular level that make all the difference. And you have to be completely into it, to be into it, to have it. As Neville brings out in chapter 3 of The Power of Awareness, he gives a great illustration here. I love this. First, he says, you can know a thing spiritually only by becoming it, only by thinking from it. You must be the thing itself, not merely talk about it or look at it. You must be like, notice, the moth in search of its idol, the flame. He says of the moth who spurred with the true desire, plunging at once into the sacred fire, folding his wings within till he became one color with the substance, with the flame. He only knew the flame, who in it burned, and only he could tell who never returned. Yeah, so just like a moth, you have to be completely in it to receive it. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I have on campouts where we've had candles, and literally moths are dive bombing into the flame, completely sacrificing themselves, abandoning themselves to the flame. I can hear some of you skeptics now. Some of you out there saying, well, you know what? I manifest, and it's never that hard. I've read and I've seen examples online, and even had a friend who actually manifested something easily without really focusing on it. Yeah, those are the rare cases. And tell me about the person who became the millionaire that didn't become completely absorbed in believing that he was a millionaire, and then everything unfolded after he was completely absorbed in the concept and threw himself into it. That's what I'm talking about here with persistence. Whether you agree or not is completely up to you. I'm basing this on the fact that most people don't invest the time in meditating and truly giving their chance to their desire being absorbed and believed in on a cellular level so that they can actually see themselves with that higher income. They can see themselves with that amazing woman or man. They can see themselves changing that career that they thought was scary and they had fear and doubt. But because they convinced themselves, they were able to do it. And that has to be done through the persistent work of applying the practices. Now, if you've experienced otherwise, amazing, wonderful. I'd love to see your comments, and those of my viewers will benefit from your comments. Please do so. Neville continues, the certainty of the truth of this law must remain despite great disappointment and tragedy. Even when you see the light of life go out and all the world go on as though it were still day, you must not believe that because your assumption failed to materialize, the truth that assumptions do materialize is a lie. If your assumptions are not fulfilled, it is because of some error or weakness in your consciousness. I appeal to you, friends, to understand that consciousness is everything, and developing it in consciousness is the way to realizing your dreams. Neville completes our reading with some very encouraging words for those of you who've struggled till now. He says, however, these errors and weaknesses can be overcome. Yes, they can be overcome. So press on to the attainment of ever higher levels by feeling that you already are the person you want to be. And remember that the time it takes your assumption to become reality is proportionate to the naturalness of being it. And there are methods and processes that, if used with complete focus and dedication and discipline, and it's not work, my friends. It is absolutely a pleasure. Once you start following these processes, you're going to see results. And as you do, it's going to bring joy to you, and you will be able to realize your dreams and move from failure to success. I'll invite you to stay with me just a couple of minutes more as I share some wonderful words that Neville had at the end of this chapter 24, the words of the great Ralph Waldo Emerson. Man surrounds himself with the true image of himself. Every spirit builds itself a house, beyond its house a world, and beyond its world a heaven. Know then that the world exists for you. For you, the phenomenon is perfect. What we are, that only can we see. All that Adam had, all that Caesar could, you have and can do. Adam called his house heaven and earth. Caesar called his house Rome. You perhaps call yours a cobbler's trade, 100 acres of land, or a scholar's garret. Yet line for line and point for point, your dominion is as great as theirs, though without fine name. Build therefore your own world, as fast as you conform your life to the pure idea in your mind. That will unfold its great proportion. Emerson. Yes, as fast as we can conform the idea in our mind. It may take a few weeks, it could take a few months, it may take longer, but in the end it will be worth it, and your efforts will not be in vain. So I invite you, friends, to consider the links that I shall share with you, and you can see through the power of imagination how you can manifest your dreams, and you can click to begin now.